Hey guys, welcome back to Mental Game Live. I'm so excited. Tonight's a special night. Tonight's a special night because we are going to have on the Team Riley. Davis Riley, winner of the 2023 Zurich Classic in New Orleans, a team event. He and Nick Hardy are the winners. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But tonight we're going to have on the whole team, and we're going to talk about what it takes because I get so many questions and people asking me, look, I'm stuck, I'm struggling. How am I ever going to break through and break free? All those other things, right? And so we're going to dive into that tonight with a great young man, a great caddy, and a great coach. And we're going to hit that out throughout the entire show. If you're watching me over on YouTube, make sure you get over to my Mental Game Live on YouTube. If you're watching my Instagram Live, make sure you hit me up on YouTube. If you've got questions, make sure you drop them in our comment section. We'll be reading and going through them. If you have questions for Davis, we bring in James and we bring in Mark, we'll go through that. Mental Game Live. Listen, I've gotten some messages this week that I'm blown away from. You know, I'm one of those guys that always looks at numbers. And I'm like, man, I want like 10,000 people watching live. And I know that's not realistic. But what I get are messages of saying, hey, we share Mental Game Live with our entire team. We go back and we watch every single episode together, and we won the conference championship. I had another player reach out to me and say, I've watched those elements. There's no place online. There's no place that I can go to get the information on the mental game coming from the right sources about the right things and helping people perform. You know what? That's what Mental Game is all about. And that player went on to win their conference championship. So coaches, players, parents, this is where it's at. My goal is to build a community that we change the way the mental game is coached, taught, and executed at the time that it matters the most. And that's what it's all about. So I'm pumped. We're seeing some amazing success. 3 of the last 5 victories on the PGA Tour come right out of this, right? Come out of the mind side, what we're doing. Very honored to work with some amazing players. So let's get to the good, the bad, and the ugly. We're going to do it reverse today. Let's go to the ugly first there, Bash. All right. So if we go back and take a look, I don't know about you guys. We're going to jump out of golf here for 1 minute, but the Dylan Brooks, LeBron James feud, whether you're a LeBron James fan or not, Dylan Brooks, way out of line. Listen, when you're going to poke the bear, you better deliver. And you're going to poke one of the greatest to ever do it and you know, talk about him and spark him. Why give a man like that motivation? Players, the best thing to do is keep your mouth shut, do your job, and do it to the best of your ability. There's no reason for you to poke the bear. Be the best that you can be, and that always speaks louder. Don't waste your time on BS and things that don't matter. You don't need bulletin board material, and nobody has won the war of words over the war in the ring. Okay? Take care of your business. Shut up and do your job, and you'll always, always be better for it. Let's go to the bad. And I'm going to take a different angle on this as a former pitcher. Max Scherzer this week is one of my favorite pitchers in Major League Baseball because of his attitude and his focus and his intensity. Got suspended for 8 to 10 games, I don't know, something stupid, for having a sticky substance on his hands. And if you've been to a Major League game recently, you know umpires come out and take a look because they're trying to look for a thing called spider tack, which helps pitchers increase the RPM of the baseball by having a tackier substance. What you guys don't know is when they throw the baseballs back out to the pitcher, they don't rub them up. There's rosin on it. There's all kinds of things. And it's kind of one of these crazy things, right, where you want a pitcher who's throwing 100 miles an hour to have some sense of control. Well, here's the deal. We don't really know what was on Max Scherzer's hand. Was it rosin and sweat? Was it a little bit of rubbing alcohol? Was it, licking his finger? What was it? It's a bad look for baseball. Even if Max did something or he didn't, and we're all coming after the Houston Astros and the buzzer gate, which a lot of other teams have done. Listen, if you're ticked off about getting beat, get better. Simple answer. Now let's go to the good. Oh my God, am I pumped? And we're going to bring him in here. I am so excited to talk about the good. Davis Riley, winner of the 2023 Zurich Classic. What's up, my man? How you doing tonight?
What's going on, buddy? I appreciate you boys having me on.
Oh, dude, just so excited. So excited. So let me give you guys a little background about Davis, okay? Davis went to the University of Alabama, Hattiesburg, Mississippi, and there's a funny story about that, and I'll get into it in a minute. Been out on tour in his second year, was a 2-year member of the Korn Ferry Tour, won twice, but got stuck on the Korn Ferry Tour because of COVID. Couldn't advance, which sucked because a lot of your contemporaries had moved up and were getting to play a lot. You were stuck on the development tour, which is fine, but you had to deal with that. So funny story. I've, been around your world a long time. I remember your dad calling for an appointment, and his answer was, we're getting ready to go to the U.S. Junior. Let's just wait to see how this goes, and we'll call you after we come back. And you runner-upped. So I didn't see you. You came to Alabama. You didn't need me then, but it's an honor to be a part of your team And I'm so excited to celebrate this victory with you.
No, this means a lot, and obviously, you know more than anybody the hard work that's gone into this, and it takes a really good team to make this work, right? You gotta, I've been fortunate to work with you and some other guys to help me get to this point, and it's a group effort, and that's for sure. And no, I'm honestly speechless, over the moon right now.
So there's a couple of things I thought were really cool. All right. And people don't know the background and the amount of work that you guys as tour players go through. And I always tell players is that y'all win 80% of your money in 5 events a year. And last year you learned to become a tour player. You learned to deal with the travel, bout of food poisoning, lost clubs, and all the dream of being a tour player, right? But then, you get out there and you compete and you start realizing, man, I can actually compete. You go into a playoff at Valspar against one of my other clients, one of your dear friends, Sam Burns, who I'll tell a story about Sam with you in just a minute. I think I told you a story about when I wanted to hear it. And you learn that you could compete. And then fatigue hits in. And then, the grind. And all of a sudden, you had to do some soul searching the beginning of this year to kind of figure out what you wanted. Talk to people about that, because we always see the success, but we don't see the stuff behind it.
Yeah, for sure. Like you said, and I'll start out by, just getting on the tour, and like, obviously you always dream and aspire of being there. And in the back of your mind, you're always like, hey, I'm good enough to compete with these guys, but to actually do it is another thing. And to actually get a taste of that in my rookie season fairly early on was great. But at the same time, it was also hard because, all the stuff that comes with that, the expectations. And that's something that I may have struggled with a little bit, is like you get a taste of it and you just itch so much to get back there, and you kind of can get in your own way a little bit. But yeah, and that's the thing. And that's, something that you've helped me out with tremendously, is just kind of like, okay, what did we do to get to that point? How quickly can we get back to that? And that's been key for me. And that's why I feel like I've started to play some good golf these last couple of weeks, and maybe didn't get off to the start I quite wanted to this season. But, recently I feel like we've done a good job of, okay, what's our blueprint? Let's get back to what, makes us tick well. And I feel like we've done a really good job of that.
When did you know? That is a crazy question. Looking back, I mean, this time last week, I was chasing you on a fairway and looking for you out there. When did you know that it was a good week? Can you talk to people? It's like, did you know on Tuesday or Wednesday? It's like, man, I'm going to put ourselves in position, or, I mean, clue that in a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. Me and Nick, first off, are really good buddies. So last week there was definitely a level of comfort there. But no, we kind of had a feeling, Tuesday and Wednesday we were trying to prep for the format. Like Tuesday we played 9 holes of best ball. We set a goal for us is like, hey, let's shoot 5 under on this 9. We've got to shoot 5 under or better to win the golf tournament.
You think Jeff King, Nick's caddy's upset about paying that bill now?
Yeah, exactly. We had a nice little wager, and
he was pissed. He was pissed.
He was pissed. Yeah, he was not happy. And but no, little stuff like that to push us. So we were definitely seeing some glimpse of some really good stuff early. And then even Wednesday, we got to prep with the alternate shot format and had some good there. But no, our games were really. I think we just got comfortable early, and kind of the way we prepped and we did the best ball and the alternate shot. It was just almost like we were in the flow already starting Thursday. So there wasn't really a big transition. And right. And it was extremely fun, and it also helped that we were both brought our A games that week. And but yeah, I would say a lot of it has to do to the prep we put in beforehand, and the level of comfort there for sure.
When you stood up there and all of a sudden the back nine, for their listeners, Zurich goes best ball, so it's the best score between the two players, then alternate shot, which exposes a lot. That's a difficult place to be, because you want to play. It's one thing if you get yourself in trouble and you can work yourself out of it. It's another thing when you put your partner in a bad spot, and it's really hard as a player to get in any kind of rhythm, because you may not hit a shot, you may not hit a scoring club for a couple holes, you may not have to hit a tough 7, 6, 5 iron for a couple holes. And all of a sudden now you're up under the fire and you haven't hit that shot. How did you stay in that present coming down the back nine? Because you guys balled out coming down that back nine.
For sure. I mean, you said it best. I mean, like alternate shots is tricky. It's like, because I feel like when you're playing your own ball, like a regular tournament, you're getting into the flow and you kind of know where your game's at for the day. You're like, okay, I kind of got a really good sense of what's going on today. But like at the same time, like alternate shot, like you might not hit a shot for 4 or 5 holes, or like an iron shot or a drive or a putt for a couple holes. So just like getting into that flow can be really difficult. But Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like, okay, what can I do best in this moment? My process is, it's like, okay, I don't have to worry about the next tee shot on the hole. So I'm already looking forward to, if Nick puts it here, I'm looking for like, okay, I'm gonna have this yardage, and just kind of getting yourself in that mindset. And so it's easy, and it's kind of tough too, because as golfers, we're always wanting to be in control. So it's kind of weird watching somebody control an outcome that like you have no control over. So it's just so about reining yourself in and just saying, look, I'm going to accept whatever it is, and my job is to be the best I can in the next shot, whether it's in the trees or in the fairway, middle of the fairway. And I'm just going to be the best I can in that moment and try to, leave my partner in the best spot possible.
Past experiences. Did playing at Valspar help you at Zurich? I mean, you got in a playoff with Sam. You chased him down after a mistake. Okay. And we've talked about that, right? You made a triple, and 95% of players, young players, rookies would have folded. You didn't. You came back. You kept throwing punches, and you took down and Sam had to hit a bomb to beat you. Okay.
Sure.
What did you learn from that you applied standing on that 18th tee, alternate shot, having to hit a drive with water down the right? Not easy. What did you pull off that?
100%. I was able to draw experiences from Innisbrook, for sure. I mean, we talk about this. There's always going to be ebbs and flows in the golf round. It's just like, okay, how can I just, weather the storm when things are not going your way, or, when things are going good, how can I keep myself in my lane and, dominate the moment? So, and yeah, it was really tough. And it's really cool. A lot of the people on the outside don't get to hear the real conversations that we have. It was really funny after the round. Me and Nick were talking, just kind of taking it all in. He was like, dude, I slept 4 hours last night. Like I was so nervous today. I was so nervous this morning, and I was definitely nervous as well, especially coming down the stretch. But, and we've done tremendous work on that. And for me, and the toughest part was after 17, after I made that long bomb, and obviously we're high-fiving, going crazy. But the most proud of myself and stuff I've learned from you and that I've been able to draw on past experiences is, you're going to have stuff go on. You're going to have good, like you said, you're going to get rowdy, you're going to get excited, or bad stuff is going to happen and you're going to want to react. But it's just like controlling yourself. Like I looked at James walking off 17 after going crazy, like, dude, let's like walk slow to this next tee box. Like my heart is pumping out of my chest.
You had so much adrenaline off coming in and making that putt.
100%.
Surging.
100%. I told James, all right, let's take it easy, because it's easy to feel. I mean, with the adrenaline going, it felt like I was doing a run off the back of the green. So,
yeah.
But yeah, just being able to, and that was the most proud I was in myself the whole week. It was to able to step up on a really tough tee shot on 18, knowing that I need to hit the fairway to give ourselves an opportunity to win, and able to control my adrenaline and my emotions and step up there and execute was really cool.
I think having that awareness is so key. I get chills when you're saying that, because when Sam won at Valspar the year before against you in the play, that was his first victory. Mm-hmm. And he had played at Zurich in the alternate shot on Friday. They were in the lead and he hit it in the water on the right. And mm-hmm. Billy sat down and talked to him about why we, in those situations, and having a fairway finder, which you hit. Yep. And then I said, hey, when we get in those situations, we've got to communicate more. And he walked off the 15th, 14th tee at Valspar and turned to Travis, his caddy, and says, I need you to talk to me right now. I got a major amount of adrenaline running. You did the same thing. Players, what I want you guys to understand is that this is what the top players in the world go through, the same feelings you do. They learn tools on how to manage it, how to flow it. And they're not trying to be like, oh, it doesn't bother me. What was so beautiful is you worked your process. You got in, you communicated with your teammate out there. You communicated with your navigator, James, and you said, look, let's work our process. And you striped it.
Yep. 100%.
Striped it.
Yeah.
That's what this is about.
For sure. For sure. And it's, I don't care who you are. Like, I mean, and this is something that we've worked on a lot. Like I've always kind of like, when I've gotten nervous, I've kind of like pushed it away and saying, oh, that's a sign of weakness, instead of embracing it, like saying, okay, I'm nervous. This is happening to everybody. How can I get back to my process and handle these nerves correctly? And that's something that I feel like I've really grown in the past year on, is being able to deal with the nerves, being in the final group with John Rahm or whoever, best players in the world, because there's a lot more that comes along with that. And I feel like that's something that I've been able to grow on the past year. And, there's a lot to be said for that.
Anybody trying to push you to play this event? Is there anybody?
Was
there anybody on your team that was telling you had to play Zurich? Was there anybody?
Yeah. Let's not go there. No.
There was
No,
a
but
reason why, but I was adamant for you to play this event.
for sure. No, we had talks about this because this was one of the ones we didn't know on the schedule. But there were some things we were chipping away at, and you're like, look, this is obviously one, it's a fun tournament, it's a great format, but we wanted to continue to stack the bricks in the right direction because we know things were in a really good direction, and it was another week to try to go get better and have fun with it. And then it just was a bonus that we both played really well, and that we were able to get in a position where we could just compete. So yeah, and it was just the perfect scenario where I feel like I got a lot better because it's a format where you can like I was just trying to get better, and then we got in a position where we could compete. Then it was just like, okay, this is awesome. So to grab a lot of experience, really good experience from that tournament, I think is something that I'll carry with me the rest of my career probably.
I have a question on YouTube right now, and I also have a question that came into me earlier. So I'm asking both. Enzo asked, what level of expectations do you have when you go into a tournament? Like, what do you want? What's ideal?
Sure.
Are you every event, or how are you working?
For sure. I mean, every event, obviously you're trying to win, right? That's the big goal, right? But there's a lot of things. I've always been somebody, a weekly for a tournament or a season long, there's always things that are along the way. It's like, for me, it's like, I think a lot of it's in my prep work, right? It's like, okay, what have I done the weeks leading up to? What have I done that week? Because there's always like, okay, here's a low level goal, intermediate goal, high level goal. That could be like, okay, I'm gonna spend an hour doing TrackMan range drills because I know my approach game from 125 to 175 needs to be sharp this week, and then intermediate goal. It's like, okay, I want to, give myself 8 legitimate birdie looks today or something like that. So I think it's all looking at the day-to-day prep leading up to, right? And then once I get into the flow of the tournament, it's like, okay, let me get narrow in on my process. All this is about is executing a golf shot and just trusting the prep work that I've put in and that I've dived into.
One of the questions I got from one of the juniors was, how do you manage times when you're not at your best? And, because I've heard people say, it's funny, like I get the cool insight. Like one thing that even for you guys is I can hear it down the range. I hear from your colleagues. I don't ever share anything, but I can hear it. And I'm like, people have this assumption that you guys are always full of confidence. You're always at the best point. You're always bulletproof. Give some insight on that.
For sure. And there's and that's something that I would say I probably struggled with quite a bit when I was a junior or even college golfer. Was like, I took it personally when things weren't going my way, like saying, oh, like, I need to do a lot better to win this golf tournament. I need to do this and this. But I would tell myself, don't be so critical and take it personally when things are off. You got to treat it as a growing moment. It's like, hey, what's wrong here and how can I grow from this? But yeah, and it's hard when you're on the golf course and things aren't going your way. I think it's the really good players recognize when they're not having their best, and they know how to manage it when they're not on their best. So like, it's okay, I've got to, I don't feel sharp with the irons. I'm gonna take a little bit more conservative lines into the green.
Do you take a lot on sight lies of tee shots, or more around the greens?
I would say sight lines too. Like obviously, every round of golf you play, there's going to be a handful of tee shots that are uncomfortable, and that's when when things are all facets go. It's like, okay, I'm going to send it, but like if you're uncomfortable, it's nice to have something to fall back on, like a fairway finder, something that we've worked an immense amount of time on. Like having those are the tools that the really good players have that sometimes the guys that struggle go on spurts where they struggle consistently may not have. It's just nice having a security blanket, so to speak, when things aren't going your way. So, and then just recognizing that too, not just saying, oh, I'm playing bad and just kind of pushing away and just trying to force the issue. It's okay to say, hey, like things don't feel great with the driver. I'm going to play a fairway finder, 85% of the time today. Or, things aren't feeling great. I have a left miss. I'm going to take a little bit more conservative line to the green. So I would say both. I mean, off the tee and into the green and so forth.
Would you like to do more tour, some team events?
Yeah, I mean, if Nick Hardy's my teammate, I'd love to do more. Yeah, no, there is. Oh my gosh, I mean, the week is, and it's finally just starting to settle in when I've gotten home. But it's been surreal, and the team format is just really cool.
Let's bring in James, your caddy. We got him on here right now.
Oh boy, here we go.
Here we go. We pull him in here, Bash. Here he is, James Edmondson, caddy for Davis Riley, super stud. What? Talk to me about the two of you guys communicating down the stretch and working together there? Because James is a 2-time winner of the Zurich Classic. Okay. So am I, by the way. So am I, James. So,
I got some work to do.
You got some work to do. So, James, what was that communication like? You've been there before, helping a young guy get over the line for the first time. What were you working with him on?
Just to stay, in the moment. Let's not get down if we hit a bad shot because we've got a partner that can pick us up. Just because it is a little different mindset in that event than any other event we do. And I think having the experience of being with so many different partners in that event and having some success, I feel like the formula we use out there was pretty good. And so, but yeah, I think more like the only thing that was different is look, we hit a bad shot here, but our partner could help us out. Our partner can make a birdie still, and it's not the end of the world. And so just kind of
because you guys had, and on Thursday y'all had an event like that on number 4, right? Davis hit it in the water on the tee.
6, yeah,
6, yeah.
6 was it was just a spot you just couldn't hit it, and we talked about it after the round. Davis and I did, and I said, hey, we need the rest of the week. We need to treat that left side like it's out of bounds. Like you just don't even touch it. You don't even go there. And beginning of the week, I was trying to get him to go more right, and that because we when we do our practice rounds, we figure out what our lines are going to be and all that. And so that was a hole I had circled because I knew we were evens, and and we had that conversation. I know Davis remembers. And after that Thursday round, I mean, he absolutely piped it in the perfect spot every day on that same hole. So, I mean, quick learner, very quick learner. And I was so proud of the way he listened and just executed.
What the Davis, when you've got somebody like this on the bag, what do you like to verbalize? I mean, players sometimes just verbalize verbal diarrhea sometimes, right? I mean, if I had a guy standing next to me when I was pitching, I'd be like, can you believe that call? Unbelievable. Freaking believable. So your ability to communicate has to help your visualization and stuff, right?
Oh, 100%. I mean,
yeah.
Yes, 100%. And James, I mean, it's like, I'm always like, okay, what's our front number? What's our pin? Where's our wind at? Where are we trying to leave this thing? So and then James is monumental for getting me into that process, because that's me of speaking out the process, and he's, giving me that info to dial in the process. And that's always my thought process, and the way we talk through things. That's key. And if you go into a shot and you don't have a plan for the shot, you're just not exactly setting yourself up for success. So James, talking that with him, I would say we're pretty verbal on the course. I mean, we're always trying to figure out where's our win, what kind of number we're trying to hit, and where we're trying to leave it going into the greens at least. And I think that's a major key for hitting a good shot.
Who read the putt on 16?
Oh, we both read that one actually, didn't we, James?
Yeah, you called me in.
They talked about it on TV, and that's why I'm asking. I thought it was really cool.
It's what was wild is I was telling King, and we were just talking, and I was like, I think he's going to call me in for this one. It's just you have that feeling, because I don't read every putt for him, but it was that moment, and you kind of learn the way people's mannerisms are, and we've had a couple months together to really get to know each other, and I just kind of was like, I told King, I think he's going to call me in for this one. And sure enough, he's like looking around. He's like, hey, come here.
Yeah, that's
Did you need him on 17 though, Davis, or did you have that one? Did you see that one going in, or were you just? I mean, that's a tough little into the grain. You want to get it close.
Well, a lot of people, and I think the announcer spoke about it a little bit. I was on putt the whole time, like putting it, but there was like a weird little pitch mark, like probably 8 feet in front of my ball, that I was like, this could kind of ramp up and kill it. But yeah, we actually talked about that one a little bit. But honestly, like, that's one of those ones you're like, okay, I kind of pictured this going through the fringe and onto the green. I'm just trying to hit it with perfect pace, honestly. So I leave my teammate a kick in and don't give him about 6 feet, on the second to last hole. But for that one to go in, I felt like we had a good game plan for that putt. But for that one to go in was just icing on the cake, and that was a really cool moment.
Well, before I let you go and turn over to James, I got 2 questions for you. Number one is, James and Davis, when did y'all both know you won? And then and the team won. And second, what did y'all do to celebrate Sunday night?
Yeah,
that you can say on YouTube.
Well, yeah. So I really felt like we had some serious momentum. It was one of those things throughout the day. I felt like we were always around, and I knew we could control our own destiny. We just kind of had to get on a run a little bit. But when I hit a wedge close on 13, Nick made the putt for birdie. I was like, okay, we got something going here. And then to go to the next
damn near ace 14, right?
Yeah, and then dang near ace 14. So that was really cool. But right then I was like, okay, we're in a spot where we can control our own destiny. If we snag a birdie or two coming in, there's some tougher holes that guys could slip up and make bogey. But yeah, I feel like after 14, we're like, okay, we've got this tournament right where we want to. But honestly, we walked off at 18 green, and I didn't know the guys behind us had hit in the water on 16. So I was still a little uncertain when we got done. I knew we were one ahead, but wasn't certain for sure when we what they were doing. But I felt like, after 14, we were in pretty good hands.
Yeah. What'd y'all do to celebrate?
So to celebrate, we actually had some.
I mean, is there anything in New Orleans to do?
Yeah, it's a bummer we couldn't be in a place where you can celebrate, right? That was a bummer, right?
Not at all.
No. We actually we went over to one of James' buddy's place. A good friend of him, also Desi Vegas, who owns a really fine steakhouse in New Orleans, brought over a bunch of steaks from his restaurant and cooked them up for us. And had some really nice steaks, some wine, and a couple of drinks, and it was a good time.
Well, you are forever now a PGA Tour champion. It sounds pretty good, doesn't it?
That sounds pretty good. Let's just keep.
It was never about if. It was just about when, and we couldn't let the win conversation keep getting in our way, could we?
That's right. Well, that's hats off to you guys as well. As I was telling you earlier, there's a massive team that makes this whole thing go round, and you guys have put in the hours just like I have, and I can't thank you guys enough. No, it's been pretty special. Any
advice for me starting my member guest tomorrow?
Yeah, we talked about this. You're sending driver all week. We've come up with that game
all week, man. All week.
Bomb and gouge. Hopefully not too much gouging, but bombing we can make for certain.
Let's send that driver all week. I'll let you guys know. If you don't hear from me, I'm gonna be. I won't be eating steak on Sunday night, Saturday night.
Be playing ping
Davis,
pong.
Dude, so proud of you, man. And I mean this, and thank you for coming on here and sharing this. Inspiration. A lot of great info for young golfers to learn what it takes to climb the mountain. But now, get back to work, okay?
That's right. Chase number 2. Here we go.
Chase the next opportunity. More positions, more chances to win. Thank you, Davis. Now I'm going to dive in with James and some core strategy. Thank you again, man. What a great young kid, man, huh?
Yeah. It's just so above his years. He's got so much maturity for a 26-year-old, in my opinion. And that's just one thing I was really blown away with is how ahead he was mentally, I think, in his preparation and all that out here. I mean, it's his second year, and it's like the guy does more than I've seen from 20-year veterans. So
yeah,
it's pretty cool.
Yeah. So real quick on Instagram, make sure you hit me up on YouTube. Phenomenal stuff right now. Now we got James Edmondson, caddie for Davis Riley. So you've been out here for 22 years, right? 22 years as a member on the PGA Tour as a caddy. Is that what it is?
I think this is my 20th season on the PGA Tour right now.
Okay.
So and I did a year on the Nationwide or Korn Ferry. So if you count that, this would be 21.
And just some background, I got to be around James last year at the the Open Championship. When you subbed for Billy's caddy at the time, Billy Horschel's, and I had never met you before because I stay very quiet. I'm not up everybody's feet up out there. But I was so impressed with your positivity and the way you help guide somebody. And that was the first thing I said when I was done. I was like, okay, this dude gets it. He sees a player. He's helping push him. He's not being judgmental. And you're a hell of a player yourself. So you see the game that way. What are the things that you look in from a preparation that you help a tour player that could help somebody like me or somebody who's watching this to say, these are the mistakes? Because I always tell people, look, if you want to get better, find a caddy and take them out there with you that knows what they're doing. They're going to help you get around the golf course.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you said it right there. Course management is massive, right? Like you just like to go back to that story. I don't want to harp on it any much more, but that shot on 6, it's a shot we couldn't do that if we were going to have a chance to win this golf tournament because it was too important of a tee-ball. There's so many, you go to a golf course, you figure out.
And for people to understand, water comes in on the left side and it's cutting on the right side. It's got a little feel. it's got more of a bend than 18 at Sawgrass. Doesn't have the
Mhm.
pressure of 18 at Sawgrass, but just think about that kind of kidney look to it is the best way
Yeah.
to put it.
So that's the way. That's how the hole is. So you can miss it right. I mean, right is not dead. Yeah, you get further from the hole, but and I told him on that afternoon after that first round, I was like, if you got to hit it in 5 fairway, I don't care, but you're not going left on this hole anymore. It just
Yeah.
can't do it. So those kind of holes situations for any kind of golfer, course management, minimizing your mistakes, and not always you don't always have to give it. You don't have to be like a hero on every shot. It's okay to
Yeah.
be a little more conservative, and because at the end of the day, it's numbers, not pictures, right?
Yeah. How do you keep things simple for them? Because I know, there's a lot of information. One of the things I talk about a lot with players, and particularly as caddies, young players first come out, and they've usually hustled it through the Corn Ferry Tour, and they may have some caddies on the bag or friends, but then they get on the PJ Tour, and somebody like Davis gets around really good caddies. I mean, I want people to understand there's great caddies out there, but then there's the next echelon, the very pro caddies. You guys are players. You see it as that, and your expertise is how you move players around a golf course, and you serve that role beautifully. So sometimes players get too much information. Like they go out and play on their own, they shoot a number, boom, they hit it. Now the next thing on the tour, it's like, don't miss here, don't miss there. We got statistics say you can't get it up and down on behind that green, all this. How do you keep that simple?
Well, I'm always thinking, I'm always strategizing, I'm always thinking about the next thing, what we got to do for the next thing. But I'm thinking all that, and I have an ability. I don't know if the right term is like hypersensory, but I get like the more pressure that comes on, or they're getting to the end of trying to win a golf tournament. For me, things slow down, and I'm able to like see things even like a bigger picture. And it's just something that I've been able to do that, and just to give that sense of calmness, being in the moment, and letting them talk, and then listening, and then going, okay, that's great. Or I'll be like, what about this? And just kind of talk them through it when we're, we that shot on 18, our approach shot on Sunday, he's between a wedge and a 50 degree. We had 132 to the hole, is into the wind a little bit. And
Going
then,
at a little bit of adrenaline.
Yep. He said that. And he goes, I'm kind of amped right now. And I'm like, good, you should be. And I was like, well, right there, I just needed to convince him to hit that 50, because I knew the 50 was not going to go long. And that was the mistake for that back.
And long is dead there, right? Short left is fine.
You can play from short on that pin all day. And I was kind of talking through it, and I gave him the idea, how about the 50? Let's flight it, keep it under a little bit. I said, then we can get him probably 15 feet and, give him a look.
He didn't give him the best putt. He didn't give him the best leave, did he? Oh,
we were all laughing about it at the dinner Sunday night. Desi's like, he goes, I'm up in the stands over there, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, Nick, what are you doing? Can you not give my boy at least like just get it this close?
Hey,
it was three feet.
When Billy Ho and Scott Piercy won, Piercy did the exact same thing. He ran it 4.5 feet past.
Pass.
Like, dude, come on.
Yeah.
Like, and it was kind of, not knocking Nick, but Davis played really, really well that week, right?
Yeah.
And he was really flowing, and Nick played great too. But Davis had this command about him, and that was the same way when Billy had that and had to make that putt. It was like he was really flowing that week. He was playing good. So you can kind of sense that. Who made the decision to lay up on 16, or was that always 16? A layup? Yeah.
Well, we were 15 green when I went over to Nick, and I go, what number do you want into this hole? And he just immediately was like 115. And I was like, perfect. So I let them tell us they were laying it up, but we were laying it up. But they had the idea of laying it up.
Right.
What was that one year when Palmer and Rahm won, it's kind of a similar situation. We were 3 shots up going into 16, and Rahm was adamant he's going to hit driver. I mean, Palmer, Hayes, and myself were pulling the driver away, and here.
He's kind of strong though, isn't he? He's kind of strong.
Take the 7-iron and hit it. And if you ask him, he still today will. I mean, he knows it's the right play, but he still jokes like, I should have hit driver there. I knew I should hit driver. And so there's another one of those moments where you don't have to be a hero and hit the hero shot, just got to keep it in
How do
front
you
of you.
handle pushback from a player out there? Because you got, they're young or they're fiery, like John, perfect example. And he's fiery and Adam works with him, or, I love my players with emotion. Like, that.
Yeah.
I love emotional players. I want people to express. How do you handle pushback in that situation?
I think you just kind of continue to explain your thought process, your decision, what you think is the right play. End of the day, I mean, unfortunately, they're the ones that are calling it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's no different than, Coach Payton is calling a play into Drew Brees, and that's all he can do. He can only tell him what to do. Is Drew going to run it exactly how he's supposed to, or is he doing audible? I mean, that's the player's responsibility. All we can do is advise and strategize, and then give them the knowledge that they hire us for, and then you hope that you make a collective decision, and then you go forward, and hopefully you're not looking back.
How much out there do you do? You're essentially a psychologist inside the ropes. So how much at this level is mental? What's the advantage there?
Oh, it's huge. I mean, you can walk them down the range and you see so many good swings. I mean, everybody out here is so good, right? But there's definitely different levels of good, and to be one of the greats, to be iconic, to be a Phil Mickelson or a Tiger Woods. It's just, they have that moxie that gets them to a level. I mean, what Phil did at the Masters this year I thought was amazing. It just goes to show you when you're good, you're good. And guys that have that extra, I don't know, that extra that X factor, they stay out here a long, long time because they just do it differently.
Can you see it? Can you predict it? Can you see it on the range?
I can see it on the range, but I need to be on the course around them to see how they handle situations. And that to me, like I need to be in the moment with them, and it could be that my guy, or it could be, someone we're playing with, but then, I can pretty much spin around with somebody and be like, yeah, that guy's mentally tough, or that guy's not.
Mm-hmm. When you're out there and you're competing, right? And you look at all these young guns they're hitting it so much further. Are we losing competitiveness because of technique? And we've got Mark Blackburn coming on here in just a second. We'll go and pull up Mark as we talk and ask this question. Mark Blackburn, swing coach for Davis Riley. There he is, back from Detroit in the snow. Are we losing competitiveness out there, James? And Mark knows this because we talk about this. Coaches teach to a lot of technique. They coach to numbers they can measure. But there's few coaches that coach to competitiveness and the softer side of the game, which is really where the harder stuff is. Do you see that as a caddy as like, yeah, the kid can bomb it, but he can't. He just melts down under pressure.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Like they almost become like robots, and you program a robot, and then say some variable gets in there, the robot doesn't know what to do, and that's why you've got to have some, you've got to have the ability to like I said, call an audible. You got to call an audible sometimes when you're out there, just like you would in football or baseball or whatever. And then that's what separates the winners from the guys that don't win, in my opinion.
I think it's cool to have you two on here. And the reason I wanted to do this was you guys were new to the team in February. And y'all come in, and I say this, I love the team that was there before. I have respect for each person that was on the team before. But Davis made some changes, which is not uncommon for a young player when they start taking control a little bit and they start building the team how they want them. And you guys came in. I remember our first meeting, we were over here in Mark's shop. And I remember, James, you looked over and said, yeah, this kid's good. Like, there's some things here and there's some moxie here. What did y'all two see in that moment that knew that this is what y'all were going to be doing and like what you had?
For me, I mean, Mark can expand.
Because you were with Ryan Palmer for what, 20 years?
Yeah.
That's a long time.
So it was, it was new for me. It's, invigorating being around a young kid. It's really cool. But and Mark can elaborate, but I'm a big believer we got to eliminate one side of the golf course to succeed on the PGA Tour. I don't care if it's the left or the right, but we got to eliminate one side. And that means that the guy needs to have a shot that he can pull off whenever the heat is on or when they're not comfortable. And that was something that I didn't think we had when we both signed on in February, and obviously we have it now.
How did you put that in place, Mark?
I think it's more of a question of, you always ask the player, like, okay, you don't drive it very well. And I can still remember James is sitting on the chair on the left, and I think you were on the right. And I said, Davis, if I put a gun to your head, what shot are you going to hit? And he kind of looked at me like a deer in headlights. And as soon as he did that, I was like, okay, well, he doesn't have a go-to shot.
Nope.
And so when you start talking about competitive shots, and you saw it on the last hole, that's probably he has a shot that we kind of taught him collectively. I suggested it, and, you know, as always happens when you work with a player, the caddie is your best resource, right? The caddie is your either biggest supporter or your biggest, combatant, if you know.
Right.
So obviously James
Been
and I
there,
have got a lot of history, right? So I'm much more about empowering the team. Like, okay, so Davis, we need to give you a shot, and then once you explain to him, okay, this is probably the easiest way for you to go about doing it. And then you've got the caddie who's a veteran in the corner going, like this. Like, you kind of know that if the player buys into it and they're willing to practice it and they're compliant with it, they're not going to realize when they need it. But as soon as they use it, all of a sudden it becomes like a superpower. And I think every great player has something that they deviate to under pressure. And for me, once I knew that, okay, you've got a really good golf swing. He's worked with a great coach before in Jeff Smith, but it was more one of those things where I don't know if he quite had ownership of the ability to hit shots at a certain time. And it's like, I'm all about pretty golf swings, but I'm more about a golf swing that's functional and the golfer has ownership of. So do they understand their recipe and what causes the shot? And I spoke today in Detroit about this. I'm a massive believer as a coach that shots win over swings.
Yeah.
So
can we get Davis back on? Is he still here? Can he pop up? There he is. We got the whole team here now, man.
All this good info.
Awesome. I love it. So, Davis, let's go back. I didn't know you were sticking around. So you come in that February, and Mark looks at you and is like, dude, we got to – and I remember this. That actually started in February when we were standing after the Scottsdale tournament. I said, do you have a – he's like, I don't have a shot in mind. I'm just swinging. And I was like, oh, my God. Oh, my God, what are we doing here? And so talk about that, Davis. Go through that, because you were very coachable in that situation to say, I need to have something to go to. I mean, let's be honest. It wasn't like you were going to Palm Desert to go play. Y'all were leaving to go play the Honda Classic, which is probably the most punitive ball striking place you can go to.
For sure. And especially at the time, and that's kind of been my Achilles heel a little bit this season, and probably why I didn't get off to the start that I really wanted to, was because I really hadn't been driving the ball really well to put myself and kind of open up, the strength of my game. But and Mark kind of hit the nail on the head, and he did. He was like, so if I put a gun to your head and you got to hit the fairway, what shot are you hitting? I was like, I really didn't have an answer for him. So, and that's something that we've developed over the past couple months is like, okay, in this scenario, what shot are we hitting? How can we replicate that in practice? How can we, what are your cues to hit this shot? And stuff like that. And I feel like I've really grown in that aspect and he's given me the concepts and how to have these tools and when to apply them. And I think that's the biggest thing. And that's, there's one thing to, practice it or just say I'm gonna hit it, but you got to really replicate that in practice. And then you go from there, and then you get on the course and hit them, in practice rounds. And you go from there and you hit them under pressure in tournament play. And I feel like that's, and like he was saying, that shot on 18, that was a lot of hard work that went into that. And that was probably one of the best moments I've had on the course.
Yeah, trust me, it was mine too when I saw it land in the fairway.
I think one of the things that's really powerful for people to understand is when you have a team of like-minded people and everyone's collectively together, James and I will intentionally, like, there's certain shots we get excited about that Davis hits because we understand that when it matters, those shots will be sustainable and they'll stand up. And then there's other shots and things he does that's incredible, like can just send it, smash it, the prettiest shots. But we know that when it comes to nut cutting time, those shots you can't duplicate them as much. And so we like this week on Wednesday, we finished it with some of these really low shots. And I know Davis is probably thinking, you two are crazy.
Now, I remember I I was standing 1 or 2 down, and I remember watching you. And I remember you turned to him and said, "We're going to need this shot coming down 18." You exact words you said. Let's hit a low bullet. We're going to need this shot on 18. And you called it. I think what's important, I want the three of you guys to talk about it. You know, we hear a lot from parents who want their kids to be successful. And as soon as somebody hits a bad shot, they freak out. Like, oh my God, I can't believe, because they're trying to do so much. And what the two of you do with Davis, and what Davis bought into, was simplifying process. He went to things, instead of trying to be 9-ball windows and all this, it's like, this is my go-to. Like, this is what I do, right? Like, James has got a Whataburger shirt on. You don't go to Whataburger for a steak. You go there to be there, to go get a great burger. I love it. And if Whataburger wants to sponsor me, I'm in. But you get, you know what I mean? We simplify the process, right? So talk about that process of how you do that, because that's not easy for people to do. We think we have to have all these tools in the container, but in the heat of the moment, Davis and James are talking back, and they got to simplify.
For sure. Yeah. I remember one of the first things when I went and saw Mark is, you know, we did a bunch of different things, but one of the things he had mentioned, he's like, okay, what is your desired shot shape, you know, with your irons and driver? I was like, yeah, I'd like to draw my irons and then I'd like to cut my driver. And he's like, okay. And the biggest thing is figuring out what are my cues, like you said, for the low cut driver. When that moment comes, okay, I've got to stand a little bit closer to the ball. I've got to go a little bit further back in my stance. I've got to choke up. And I think that's the biggest thing. It's like, okay, you want to hit the shot, but like, okay, what's the cues to do that? And then the little things, and then being able to trust that on the course is huge. And yeah, and it's not like I'm out here like, you know, every back right pin I'm hitting a high feathery cut to, or, you know, whatever. It's like you don't have to play the superhero shot all the time. It's like, okay, you know, here's our desired shot shape. What are my cues to do it, and how consistently can I do that?
Yeah.
I think one of the things that I would say is Davis came in with a really good golf swing, right? I'm obviously pretty pragmatic as a coach. And when it comes to like playing golf tournaments, I'm very much of the mindset, what's the least invasive way you can make adjustments to hit golf shots? And invariably, it's not sexy. It's set up. It's intent. It's doing those little things really, really well that maximize your chance of executing well. And then if you can do that, now all of a sudden it becomes a little bit easier. I think the other thing that is really important is the tactical decision-making that James has brought to the table is huge, because most young players, and the way that these guys play, and they play on the web and they play in college, is they're gifted. They can send the ball a long way. They're great athletes, but they don't necessarily have the discipline to not take on a certain flag, to play away, to make sure that they take their chances when they can get them. And I think James needs to get a lot of credit for that, because as veterans, our strategy is like minimize the risk, but maximize the outcomes. And then that doesn't necessarily appeal to a lot of players, because scoring, if you look at anyone that's any good, is very much a disciplined endeavor. And most people don't do that. Most people just play golf recklessly, and the best players don't. If you look at Tiger and you look at all the stuff Fawcett did with looking at his data, he played like precision, very conservative. And so James and I have tried to explain to Davis that, look, you've got these gifts which are incredible. When you play your golf to your capacity, you talk about capacity, Brett, you'll probably win the tournament by 10 to 12 shots. But you don't even have to be close to that. You can play with your average to below average and still contend and win on the PGA Tour if you follow this protocol, as in don't do anything silly, right? And I think that's one of the things I'd say that our experience, James and I, have just brought to the table, is to get rid of some of the fluff, some of the things that people might think are important, but all they do is detract from what you're actually trying to do. To James's point earlier, there's no pictures on the scorecard. It's just numbers. And so we're trying to be as efficient as possible. We know when Davis does all the things that Davis can do to the best of his ability, he's going to win very easily. But our job is to go for the average, as you and I talk about, Brett, and how does he play well? And I think that's where we've complimented him more on the tactical, strategic, and giving him ownership of his golf swing in terms of what does he need to do to make it work. And I think that's a lesson for everybody.
Well, and I want to get James's insight on this in a second. But one of the things that people need to understand is Davis's best is world class. His average had to be better. And one of the things that we push on is my whole message is we have to increase the number of opportunities we get with under, to your point, nut cutting time, where our heart rate gets up. We hadn't been doing that a lot, Davis, right? I mean, we had talked, we needed more opportunities because the more you're there, the better you are. So that all of a sudden then the A game shows up and it's off to the races. But if you're focusing and parents and players, you got to understand you don't always have your best on the first round. You don't have your best in the first 6 holes. You got to manage your game to play into it. And James, you're out there seeing the big picture and knowing, just like you did on the first day, we can't hit it in the water on 6. And having that course management of like, if I can just increase number of opportunities, this kid's A game is going to show up. And when it does, watch out, world, watch out, right?
Yeah, for sure. And it's, I think I've said this before to the guys or to Davis, and I was like, you've put together this team with this new team with Mark and myself. We're obviously we're the end of the day, this is all our job, but you've got to trust your teammates or the guys around you being. So what we're telling you, you're gonna, maybe it's a little critical sometimes, and you got to be willing to take a little criticism. You got to be willing to maybe do something you don't really maybe quite want to do, but you're bringing us in because you want to get better and you believe that we can do that. So trust in what we're saying, and I think that's what talking about to these kids that are out there. Their team that they have around them, they need to be invested with that, and they need to believe it. If they don't need to be doing it. So if you lose that trust, that belief, then cut ties and move on to somebody that you can find. But you're spending a lot of time out here together, so you've got to have that trust, because otherwise it's worthless.
Yeah. Davis, when you're out there and you're playing and a victory's there, it's coming. How did you stay patient? Seriously. Because I hear that a lot from people. It's like,
yeah, and James helps out a tremendous amount with this. And James, we've only been working together a couple months, and he can probably, talk about this. But like for me personally, I feel like sometimes the hardest part of the tournament are Thursday and Fridays, because I want to get in the moment so bad. But like when things don't go my way early, I get a little bit more emotional, maybe a little bit more reactionary. So for me, like he does a really good job of telling like, hey, just keep doing your thing. We're going to have a chance to win this golf tournament. Let's get back to what we're doing. Let's get back to the process. It's Thursday. Like we're good. So he's been really instrumental in that. And, but yeah, I just felt like those are sometimes the toughest times for me, are Thursday and Fridays, and just being patient. And James, he does an extremely good job with that. And, but yeah, and that was really cool to, James's expertise too, like how he was implementing a maybe more conservative line on 6 on a Tuesday. Right. Because, he's already thinking forward to like, okay, we're playing this whole, whatever the alternate Friday and Sunday. And already like those are the little things that stack up over the course of a week that James does that is the deal breaker. Right. Like in like that instance is a perfect example, like giving me, not saying like, oh, we need to be conservative on this hole. He's saying more, he's giving me a line. Okay, our finish line is here. Just kind of trying to like, let's implement a little bit of that here. And then, when I have those shots that I've developed, like the fairway finder, and help, like another example, like helping me deploy that on the last hole, like, hey, this is the shot we're hitting here to put ourselves in the right position to win this golf tournament. So all those little things add up, and that's the stuff that goes on during the round that is what guys and what you do, the little things that add up to win a golf tournament.
Yeah. And Mark did something with you on Wednesday. I don't know if you remember it. I told James this afterwards. I was so impressed. He took you outside and had you go down and watch another player in the way they hit balls. And you were taking it in. Okay. You were listening and learning. Can you give us some insight, the two of you guys, on that? James was eating oysters and sausage.
He was enjoying Acme.
Absolutely. For those of you who don't know, on the range in New Orleans, on Tuesday and Wednesday, they have Acme on the range, and it's just incredible. So anyway.
Yeah, I'll give the short story of it, but I'll let Mark, give his expertise on that. But yeah, we walked down to the side of the range. Steve Stricker was hitting wedges. Obviously one of the best wedge players in the world. And there's a lot of stuff in his golf swing that I'm trying to replicate in mine. So yeah, and that was a pretty cool moment. And obviously, like you said, going on there and watching him and hit wedges. One of the best wedge players in the world. So I was just trying to take a few things from his golf swing, and Mark can tell you a little bit more I guess, more of the technical side of it, what we were trying to take a peek at.
Yeah, I mean, Steve Stricker's a lot more impactful, no pun intended, than Mark Blackburn when it comes to wedges. So as a coach, much like James fudging lines on a Tuesday because he knows where they need to be on a Sunday afternoon, I'm using imagery of other players. And when I think there's something to somebody who could be really good that by osmosis a player might take something from, like there's no need to get into the nitty gritty of Stricker's wrist angles are really good. And those are things that Davis he doesn't need to know that, but Davis is an athlete, pretty visual. Hey, you see how when he does that, that's kind of more of what we're talking about. So I think those are the things that you pull on as someone who's been out there a long time doing it, that where you can impact a player without having to say a whole lot, right? And it says a lot. And you're taking the time, you can go over there. It's in an intimate environment. Hey, Davis, look at that. See how he does this? Like, it does a lot for someone seeing something. I don't have to use nearly as many words. And I think that's what great coaches do. You figure those moments where's a learning opportunity? Okay, and here's one I'm going to use it. Just thanks, Strick, for being on the range last week.
Yeah, got to take advantage of those guys when they're out there. Did you guys – I had a question about using Decade. We mentioned Scott Fawcett and Decade. I love me some Scott Fawcett. But talk about that. Decade versus, 22 years on the bag, Mark Blackburn being a really good player himself, stuff like that.
I think that one of the things you can look at is success leaves clues, right? And so when people have been really successful doing something, and with the world of analytics, being able to understand where are places that you can increase your outcomes likelihood to be really good, the probability goes up with low stress. That's a strategic decision. And I think most veterans are conservative in terms of, look, time and time again, if we put ourselves in this situation, we're going to have good outcomes. And I think that's what we try and do. And I think Fawcett's done a great job of clarifying that. Maybe Mark Brody's work's really good. There's lots of great things. Swing U's got a great strokes game, but essentially Scott's the first person to kind of get in your face and make it really simple.
He does get in your face a little bit.
He does a little bit, but he's a Texan and he's proud.
He's proud of it.
One of those things is just I think those are things that players and coaches and caddies, that have been around a long time know, but we just try and instill that in the younger players like Davis. And I think that's how James sees the game anyway. Look, if we do this enough, you're going to have enough chances to be really good.
James? Yeah, exactly. It goes back to at the beginning of this interview is you just got to eliminate the silly mistakes. Give yourself.
Hold on, I'm taking notes for this week. I'm taking notes. Eliminate silly mistakes.
Silly mistakes.
You need a miracle.
Chances, because if you put in all the work and you've got shots, you'll be fine. So we lose Mark. Yeah.
Of course.
But yeah, that's what everybody can figure. Everybody can do that. People just look around, look at the hole, figure out where's the spot to be. Everybody can get a perfect shot, but where's the miss need to be? And
all right, so if somebody doesn't have you on the bag in a pressure situation, to talk through those thought processes, give some people some clues on that, what to do. I can talk about it too, but
yeah, you got to slow down, because people have a tendency to get really quick when they get nervous and they get uncomfortable. So you have to slow down, and you've got to just tell yourself okay, what shot is going to be the easiest shot for me to hit right now, and where can I hit it to? And then commit to it and do it. And if you pull it off, great. And if you don't, then learn from it and do something different next time if you have to, or go back and work on what you're trying to do. But as long you've got to you got to have a plan, right? And if you don't have a plan, then you're going to be lost in this game.
100%.
How do you guys? I think Mark will come back on here in a little bit. How do you guys – you can't simulate tournament pressure, right? Is there anything that you guys do in practice rounds or anything you do in practice when you're going out there, anything that you try to focus on in that situation?
Well, this past week, I was betting the boys. We were playing money games with them. And, I was trying to make the bet easy-ish enough where they could beat us and feel good about it. King wanted to freaking run him. He wanted to run him over, and
He wanted to break their souls.
Yeah, King was like our over under and alternate shots like 7 under. I'm like, are you kidding me? Give us a break a little bit.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll come with like little games and stuff like on the practice rounds and just kind of keep it stimulating and to have that putt or something, that putt that means something, right? I mean, have a value on that putt. I mean, it's nothing crazy. It's just something that just keeps it interesting.
And I would say, James, we do that. We've gotten a good job of that. I feel like we do that pretty weekly. Like whether it's a pro-am day or like just 9 holes on a Tuesday, it's like, okay, you've got to, here's our number. Our number is 3 under for this 9 or whatever. We'll have like a friendly wager, or it'll be like, to win the golf tournament or something like that. But I think all that stuff is like, those are really good tools to replicate tournament play, really. And I think that's the best way to do it.
I'll give you a thought on this, but what do you guys think about teaching competitiveness? Do you think were you born like eating steel, Davis? I mean, were you like always the kid that just wanted to beat up on people in the game of golf? Or is this something that you've learned over time is a opportunity? We got Mark back again, of course. There he is. Teaching competitiveness.
Yeah. For me personally, I think I've just always had that a little bit. I'm a competitive guy, and it could be something as little as just do the most push-ups or jumping jacks or whatever the heck. I've always wanted to be the guy that came out on top. But I would just say for me personally, I've always just been a competitive dude, whether that's, in high school or college, just go shoot hoops or play dog or something. I always want to be the guy that win, and like I'd get a little on edge if I wasn't winning. So, and I feel like that's something that's kind of, served me well. And I've just always been a competitive guy. I don't like losing. And I've learned how to, foster and get good at controlling the emotions with being competitive, because it can be your best friend or it can be a crutch. So there's also things I've learned along the way of how to handle that, because with such a competitive nature for me, I feel like I've got to control the emotions that come along with that.
You're on the high competitive side.
Yes.
I mean, I think that it's a superpower, but from the psychological standpoint, you're highly competitive.
Yes.
And your risk is always you internalize it and you get harder on yourself. And once we got you to start realizing that we're going to take that pressure off of self, move it back into systems and process, we know. And there was a really cool moment at the Players Championship, and I told you this. I was doing a practice round with Sam Burns, one of my guys, and you've known Sam. You all grew up together and played against each other. And he was doing a money match with Patrick Cantley and Xander Schauffele. And Patrick, in his normal way of asking pointed questions, says, "Tell me about this Davis Riley kid." Right? And he's got everything. And but we're just not seeing him win. And Sam goes, "It's coming, and when it does, he ain't gonna let up." So that's one of your contemporaries giving you a really good comment. And he's right, because you're built for this. And this is the cool thing. I want people to understand this was not you have fought to be in this situation. You want to get yourself in that, and you're hard on yourself, but that's a superpower. And Mark has the ability to put that function and that stability around you. James gives you that teammate on the course. We're not asking you to be calm. We're not asking you to be chill. We're not asking you to lose that competitiveness. We actually want to spark that, doing more and more and more.
100%. Can you agree more?
Mark, any thoughts on that?
No, for sure. I think that winning breeds winning, and putting Davis in that situation where he's validating to himself that, hey, look, I've got the skills to do this. And this week, he was definitely the leader of the alpha, so to speak, on that team. I think that says, a lot. And for him, he's now created the fact himself that he's done it. So once you've done it once, you can do it again. And once you've done it twice, you can do it a third time. And it's one of those things. Winning breeds winning, and there's nothing like it. It's validation that you're doing the right things. And I think for us as a team, as a new team, so to speak, James and I, it's validation for all of us that, look, we're onto something here, that let's keep our foot to the floor and excited for the tournaments that we have to play in coming up for the rest of the year.
I think there's a pretty good one coming up in January too, Maui.
That's a nice addition to the schedule right there, for sure.
Hey, I'll be down on the southern part of the coast there. I specialize in body surfing during that time. I love to ride the waves. So we will definitely have dinner sometime with some sushi and some fresh fish and everything out there. Yeah. Have you ever been there, Davis?
I have not been to Maui. I have not. No.
Why do I have a feeling there'll be a Hawaii-based commercial of Davis Riley on a moped somewhere for PGA Tour and Visit Hawaii? I have a feeling.
Yeah, it's funny. Another one of your guys had to do that. I think Sam Burns. I remember I see him on the Aloha commercial, and I was like, I guess I got to get over there and check this thing out.
Exactly. Hey, James, I got a question. This is why I love having caddies on. We have a guy who's put in a question. Caddying at a Club Pro Championship this weekend. Any suggestions?
Caddying in a Club Pro Championship?
Yep.
That's in Mexico. Twin Warriors, the PGA.
Don't caddy for Brett McCabe.
No.
No, this is the National Club Pro.
Yeah, I'm gonna send it. Trust me.
The top 25 getting the PGA.
Sweet.
Oh. Okay, so this is no club championship.
Come on, James. We got you on the spot now. Come on. What are some tips to give this caddy?
So he's caddying for somebody playing in the club championship.
Yes.
Playing in the Club Pro Championship, which is at Twin Warriors in New Mexico. I've played that golf course.
Oh, you're talking about the Club Pro?
Yeah, yes, the Club Pro, James. Yeah, that thing.
Playing the PGA? Is that what you're talking about? Like they get to play in the PGA?
Yeah, the top 20. Sorry, playing the PGA Championship.
Okay. I thought you were saying it was a club championship, like someone's club championship. Pointers on that? Yeah, if he knows the guy well enough, just keep a little chatter. Figure out if he wants to chat a little bit here and there. Let him kind of run the program, but just be attentive to what his needs are out there, and just try to make it as comfortable as possible for him as you can. Because that's what I try to do that with Davis. I try to go above and beyond and do certain things that other people may not do, just so that he didn't have to worry about anything except his job to hit that golf ball and execute that shot. And so I'll just, always keep water in the bag, always have tees for him. I've always got a ball ready for him. I've got the towels always wet for him, just little things like that. So he doesn't have to worry about anything. I think that's very crucial to be able to get your guy comfortable.
When you guys are out doing practice rounds together, let's say Mark and I are there. I'm not doing much in a practice round, but besides just checking in and just taking a little look. But what are you guys focusing on? Are you looking at places to miss? Are you looking at tee lines? Are you looking at places to putt from? What are you looking for? Both of you two.
Yeah, we're putting the pins out, putting spots where the pins have been in historically, because you have all that data from and all the experience from the years past. If it's a new golf course, let's say like at the U.S. Open this year, nobody's ever been on that golf course, and so you'll find where you think the pins will be. So you kind of will practice a little more around the greens, because everybody's trying to learn more in that 2 or 3 days of preparation before. But of course, what we've seen before, sometimes you just it just depends on where you're at and what course you're at. Because sometimes you've got to grind it out a little bit more because you've got to learn it. And then there's times where you've seen the golf course 100 times, it's not a really big deal. Like I'm like when we go play Colonial, when we do the Colonial tournament, I may not even have a yardage book. I might just be.
Well, you are the club champ there, aren't you? Are you not the club champion?
Yeah, that was a long time ago.
Okay.
But
Davis, what are you looking to do?
Because dependent on where you're at.
Yeah, Davis, because I get kids ask me, do you try to shoot a score on a practice round, or what do you? And it's obviously a risk, because I hear all the time, dude, I played so good in the practice round, then I went out in competition, I didn't play well. What do you recommend there?
Yeah, for sure. I think just being in a practice round, just try to be like a sponge, just try to take in all the info you can. And this is another place where James has been monumental. Obviously, he's been out there a lot longer than I have, and we can go to these courses and he's like, hey, I've seen guys back here behind the screen. This is not very good, very tough up and in. Or, hey, to this, back right pin, I've seen short right be a really good miss because we have plenty of green to work with here. So that's been really crucial. And, and look, I think try to put some pins out where you think the pins might be, hit a couple putts, hit a couple chips. And if something seems weird, or you're like, oh, wow, I didn't expect it to do that, just jot it down in your yardage book. Or, just kind of basic stuff like, to a back left pin, this spot behind back left green is not good. Or just kind of put, whether that's a little X or something, just to kind of give you that refresh your memory and kind of give you that reminder of like, hey, this is where I want to be, and hey, this is kind of where I not want to be. So just I think just putting stuff in your yardage book is really good just when you're in the practice round, just because it kind of refreshes you and kind of gives you that cue to like, okay, this is where I want to be to this certain pin, or, et cetera.
Mark, what have you worked on? I know what number victory is this for you this year in this wraparound season?
4 or 5, I think.
4 or 5. Okay, congrats. As a coach, what you take on a player like Davis. What did you work on him specifically? Because I got a lot of swing guys on here.
So the first thing I did is kind of look at Davis and see how he moves, and then based on that, in his golf swing, what's he trying to do? And I think one of the things that he does beautifully, as if anyone's seen Davis, is he rotates really, really well. Like, he's got great range of motion in terms of how much he rotates. But one of the problems he tends to have is, to his demise at times, is that his arms tend to jump out off of his body when he does that. So one of the things we've tried to do is create in his backswing, get his arm plane a little bit more together with his body, easier to rotate, kind of your arms in versus your arms way up. And then also he has a little more depth. And then on the downswing, his MO, because of this rotation, is his lead arm tends to blast off his body, gets his hand path out, and then he tends to right bend, a lot of right lateral flexion. So what we've tried to do is essentially use his superpower of rotation, get his arm deeper at the top, more across his chest, and then keep the lead arm in more in the downswing, so that he has the luxury of being able to actually rotate as hard as he wants. And then the club comes slightly from behind his hand path, and he's be able to produce really nice draws. And for him, we've used sort of zero swing direction on TrackMan as a metric for him to kind of determine whether he's got the club in the right spot on a daily basis. And then that gets his path slightly to the right. And then with the driver, we've just used the ball location being a lot further up, going towards a fade, but being able to use the same pattern. And then with the D plane, you've got the advantage that you're actually able to kind of feel like you're swinging inside out. You catch it late in the arc and you're hitting up on it. So you get a leftward path, and then the ball curves to the right. So it's been pretty simple.
But you've been coaching a player, not a method.
Yeah, I've been coaching for Davis, as he alluded to. I asked him what shot does he want to hit. So he wants to hit a draw. Based on how he moves, he's got a gift for rotating. He's a player that can take advantage of depth with the club kind of being, a little bit more lower with the arm plane, and then being able to rotate so that he can stay pretty centered as well. That works for him. Now, guys that can't rotate, that's a disastrous pattern. Won't work. So for him, all we've tried to do is give him some things. The other thing I think we've probably, this week we talked a lot about, is Davis has a propensity to move his golf ball too far up. And guys that rotate really well do better with a golf ball that's back. So you might look at his golf ball and go, gosh, that golf ball's a long way back, but he can still hit the ball.
That must be why I like the ball a little back too, though, my rotation.
Let's not even get on your golf game. We're not even going to go
I
there.
can smash it, though, at my age.
You've got loads of speed, but you don't know where it's going. But one out of 12 goes straight, a long way too.
Yeah, long way.
For Davis, his golf ball tends to be a little bit further back as well, so that he also can mitigate if his arm does come out. And those are things James and I have a little cheat sheet. Hey, Davis, when you're playing golf, remember, this is for you. You need to do this because you move in this way, and this offsets your shots that could be disastrous. And so I think that's really what we've done. His golf swing from a golf nerd perspective is probably a little flatter, deeper arm plane, center of mass more behind the hand path, and then definitely trying to keep the lead arm a lot more closer to his chest so that as he rotates, he can keep it in, and he's got a little bit more of a rotary type body delivery.
And going into this week, Davis, you were not jamming with the driver. I mean, you were like, need a little work, need a little time with Mark.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, I think there's a credit of a coaching is not chasing squirrels is what I call it. He knew where to go. He probably had a pretty good idea. He let you kind of verbalize a little bit. You guys had a session on what, Monday or Tuesday? Tuesday morning?
Yeah, we worked together. Tuesday morning. Yeah. But yeah, no, kind of my biggest thing is like I'm extremely hard on myself. So anytime something's wrong, I want to fix it immediately. And, I can be hard on myself. But yeah, we had some really good work Tuesday. And I like how Mark always talks about, look, obviously, yes, when your swings in the slot, whatever you want to call it, it's all, all systems go. But look, the really good players know how to control that. And I guess he talks a lot about like hedging against your tendencies. So I know when things aren't going my way, I was like, okay, what are my things that I need to do to, bring my tendency and get it back to where I want it to be. And like you said, look, with the iron game, I want to hit a little bit more of a draw. That ball position, I need to be disciplined and know it needs to be maybe slightly more further back than, what it is at the moment, because I'm not hitting good. I'm seeing the ball start left and draw. With the driver, I'm starting to see, a lot of like maybe draws or push cuts. Okay, I need to make sure my ball is in a good position, in my stance, and that I'm making the proper swing, and I'm not trying to, shift the arm out or do anything crazy. Let me just set this up and make it as easy as possible in the setup, and then just from there, be an athlete and swing.
I love it. Do you think you would have? What do you think college did for you as a player, good or bad?
It was good. I was Coach Sewell was he was instrumental in my growth, especially as a player. And it's a lot of the same stuff I'm working on now, I guess, from a mental aspect that I worked on in college, just because, I was a perfectionist. I wanted to be perfect. I wanted my golf swing to look perfectly on plan. I wanted to hit the perfect tight 5-yard draw every time. And when it didn't, I was pretty reactionary to that. And I will admit that, like, I'm the guy, like, sometimes I get down the rabbit hole. Like, I'm like, okay, this isn't working. I've got to move on to something different. I've got to change this up. And he taught me the biggest thing was just how to put, like, in a lot of the same stuff we're working on now that me and you and me and Mark and James and everybody talk about is like, look, you're not going to have your A game all the time. You got to be able to manage that. And you got to know when the tendencies come up, like how to combat that and realize where your game's at the moment and make the best of what you got. And I feel like I grew in that aspect. And just like your golf swing tendencies, you're going to have your tendencies that go between the years, and how fast can you get back to your lane from, when things aren't feeling the best.
Well, listen, guys, I can't thank you enough for doing this. I think you guys it's been a wonderful team to work on. It's an honor to work on Team Riley. I'm so excited for this success. There's many more to come. We got to get back to just driving the nails we got. Okay. So I wanted people to get an insight. And Davis, most importantly, thank you for coming on this after winning. Okay. That's awesome. Just share that insight so people understand. James, sharing your insight as a caddy on tour for 20 something years. I love working with you. And Mark, you and I have been buds for a long time. You got me in this industry. So, I'm here because of you. So I thank you guys for being here and doing this. As I said at the beginning, it's 3 of the last 5 weeks for the mind side. So let's keep it going. Yeah.
I want to ask Davis something real quick. Can I ask him something?
Yeah, absolutely.
So Davis, you can see where I'm at. I'm in my office at my house, right?
Yeah, I don't see it. There's got to be at least 3 or 4 Zurich Classic flags in there.
Well, there's definitely one, but I'm going to show you. There it is.
There it is.
I told you you're in this office.
I love it. Yeah, it better be front.
I got a spot right here for my next flag, and here it is.
I love it. I love it. I hope it's front and center.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be right here.
Love it.
Anyway, I just wanted to remind you when I brought you in here that first week or two we worked together, and I was like, "There's gonna be a spot right here waiting for you."
Yeah,
well, you better clear some more spots.
All right,
you better clear some more. We got some work to do. So,
right.
All right,
guys, I will see y'all all at the PGA Championship, and I look forward to seeing it and having a little celebration. And Mark, I'll probably swing by you tomorrow and beg for some help at some point. Probably
SOS, no doubt. All right, boys, take care.
You guys have a great one. Everybody, Middle Game Live. Our
Bye.
next Middle Game Live is May 1st. May 1st, our next Middle Game Live. You guys can keep following us to get all these clips on social media. Please join us May 1st. Hopefully we'll have another winner on. Maybe it's Davis, other stuff. If this stuff helps, please share it. If you love the content of what we're doing, I need you to share this message. We've got to get this out there and get more and more people to buy in. Heavy golf centric. That's where I love to work. We can talk baseball, basketball, soccer, football, all the other stuff. Let's keep jamming some golf, right? So people win because they put themselves in position to win. They're willing to be vulnerable in those situations. It's not about being perfect. It's about pushing forward and having progress. Davis did that this week with his great team. So honored. And let's go get another one. And I'll see you guys May 1st.